Here, you can improve your English with advanced, natural, and meaningful conversations. This episode is for C1 to C2 learners. Listen carefully to Sophia and Daniel. Notice the high-level vocabulary, follow the deeper ideas, and improve your fluency, pronunciation, and confidence step by step. Now, let's start the conversation.
Hi, I'm Sophia.
And I'm Daniel.
Today, we are talking about why the World Cup creates national identity. Why one team, one shirt, one anthem, and one match can make millions of people feel connected to something larger than themselves.
Exactly. The World Cup is fascinating because it turns a national team into a symbol. It is not only 11 players on the pitch, it becomes a moving image of a country's hopes, fears, memories, and ambitions.
That is what I find so powerful. During the World Cup, people do not simply support a team. They often feel that the team represents who they are, where they come from, and how they want the world to see them.
Yes, a national team can become a kind of emotional mirror. People look at it and see their childhood, their language, their family, their neighborhood, their flag, and sometimes even their country's struggles.
And that is why a World Cup match can feel so personal. Even if someone has never met the players, they can feel deeply proud when the team wins, and genuinely wounded when the team loses.
Because national identity is not only political, it is emotional. It is built from songs, memories, food, language, stories, shared suffering, shared joy, and collective imagination.
And football activates all of that at once. Before the match, people sing the anthem. They wear the same colours. They gather in homes, cafes, public squares, and stadiums. Suddenly, individual lives become part of a larger national rhythm.
It is almost like the country becomes a single, nervous body for 90 minutes.
That is a great image. One country, one nervous body.
And you can feel it. The silence before a penalty, the collective breath before a corner kick, the explosion after a goal. These reactions are not isolated, they are synchronized.
That synchronization matters. It makes people feel less alone. For a short time, millions of strangers share the same emotional experience.
And that shared experience creates belonging. It says, you are part of this story. You are not just watching from outside. This victory, this disappointment, this hope, it belongs to you too.
Maybe that is why people say, "we won," even though they were sitting on a sofa.
Exactly. No one at home completed a pass, made a tackle, or scored a goal, but emotionally, they were inside the match.
And that emotional participation is one of the reasons the World Cup becomes such a strong expression of national identity.
Yes, a country may be divided by politics, class, region, or opinion, but during a World Cup match, people can briefly gather around one shared symbol.
Of course, that unity is temporary.
Temporary, yes, but not meaningless. Temporary emotions can still leave permanent memories.
So the World Cup does not create national identity from nothing. It reveals it, intensifies it, and gives it a stage.
Exactly. It takes something invisible, the longing, and makes it visible through colours, songs, flags, tears, and celebration.
Daniel, do you think national identity during the World Cup is always positive?
Not always. It can be beautiful, but it can also be complicated. National identity can create unity, pride, and emotional connection, but it can also create exclusion, arrogance, and hostility if people are not careful.
That is an important distinction. Pride can bring people together, but it can also become dangerous when it turns into superiority.
Exactly. Supporting your country should not mean imagining other countries as enemies. The healthiest form of national pride is generous. It celebrates one's own culture without humiliating another.
I like that. Generous pride. It feels mature. It allows people to love their country while still respecting the beauty, dignity, and history of other nations.
And the World Cup gives us a chance to practice that. Every match is a meeting between identities. Different languages, traditions, rhythms, football philosophies, and emotional histories come together on one pitch.
Yes, some countries play with patience and structure. Some play with speed and improvisation. Some carry a tradition of technical elegance. Others carry resilience, physical intensity, or tactical discipline.
And those football styles often become connected to how people imagine a nation. A team's style can become a cultural narrative: disciplined, creative, fearless, elegant, stubborn, chaotic, or heroic.
But that can also become a stereotype, right?
Absolutely. We have to be careful. A national team can express certain cultural tendencies, but it cannot fully define an entire country. No country is simple enough to be reduced to one football style.
That is true. A nation is always more complex than its team.
Exactly. But during the World Cup, people often accept simplification because stories are easier to follow than complexity. The brave underdog, the arrogant favourite, the golden generation, the fallen giant, the emotional host nation.
Those narratives make the tournament dramatic, but they can also hide nuance.
Yes, and that is why advanced conversations about football should look beneath the surface. We can enjoy the drama while still recognizing that national identity is layered, fluid, and sometimes contradictory.
What do you mean by fluid?
I mean, national identity is not fixed forever. It changes with migration, history, politics, generations, language, music, and culture. A national team can show that change very clearly.
Especially when players have diverse backgrounds.
Exactly. Many national teams include players whose families come from different places, whose identities are multilingual, multicultural, and complex. That makes the idea of nationhood richer, not weaker.
So the World Cup can challenge old ideas of identity.
Yes, it can remind people that a nation is not only bloodline or birthplace, it can also be belonging, commitment, memory, citizenship, and shared emotional investment.
That makes the World Cup feel even more meaningful. It does not only show who a country has been, it can also show who a country is becoming.
Beautifully said. Every national team is a living conversation about identity.
Another thing I find interesting is how football can give people a sense of recognition. When a national team performs well, citizens may feel that their country is finally being seen.
Yes, international recognition is a powerful emotional force. For countries that are often ignored, misunderstood, or reduced to stereotypes, the World Cup can become a global stage where they present themselves differently.
A country can be known through its music, food, history, landscapes, and politics. But during the World Cup, it can also be known through courage, teamwork, resilience, and emotional intensity.
Exactly. A strong performance can shift perception. Suddenly, people around the world learn the country's name, its flag, its anthem, its players, and even its supporters' songs.
That is why underdog victories feel so symbolic. They are not only sporting surprises, they can feel like a declaration. We exist. We matter. We belong on this stage.
And that message can be deeply moving. Football becomes a form of visibility. It allows a nation to speak without making a speech.
But there is also pressure in that visibility. When a team becomes the face of a country, expectations can become overwhelming.
Absolutely. Players may feel they are carrying more than a tactical responsibility. They are carrying national dignity, public emotion, family sacrifice, and sometimes the burden of historical comparison.
That must be exhausting. Imagine being told that your performance represents the spirit of an entire country.
It is almost impossible. And yet, players accept that pressure because they know the shirt means something. It connects them to millions of people.
Maybe that is why national team football feels more emotional than club football. Club football can be about loyalty, tradition, and local belonging. But national team football touches origin, memory, and identity.
Yes, it reaches into something deeper. It asks people where they come from, what they feel connected to, and what symbols still have power over them.
And during the World Cup, those symbols become alive. The flag moves, the anthem trembles, the shirt carries history. The crowd becomes a voice.
That is beautifully put. The World Cup turns identity into performance. A country performs itself through its players, supporters, rituals, colours, and emotions.
So maybe national identity is not only something people possess, maybe it is something they participate in.
Exactly. Identity is not only inherited, it is practiced. It is sung, remembered, argued about, celebrated, and sometimes painfully questioned.
That makes the World Cup more complex than simple patriotism.
Much more complex. It is not just, my country is the best. At its best, it is, this is where I belong. This is what shaped me, and this is the story I carry with others.
And that shared story can be incredibly powerful.
It can. A World Cup goal can become more than a goal. It can become a sentence in a nation's emotional history.
So when we ask why the World Cup creates national identity, maybe the answer is this: because it gives people a symbol they can feel together.
A symbol made of colour, sound, movement, memory, and hope.
And even when the tournament ends, that symbol does not disappear completely. It remains in photographs, songs, family stories, old jerseys, and the way people remember a particular summer.
Yes, the match ends, but the identity it awakens can last much longer.
That was a beautiful conversation, Daniel. Today, we explored how the World Cup turns national identity into something visible, emotional, and shared.
Exactly. We talked about flags, anthems, pressure, belonging, pride, visibility, and the complex relationship between football and the stories nations tell about themselves.
And in our next conversation, we will move from nations to individuals. We will talk about pressure, fame, and young football stars, and how young players survive the enormous expectations of the World Cup.
That is going to be a powerful topic, because behind every rising star there is talent, ambition, fear, discipline, and a very human struggle. Thank you for listening. See you in the next episode.
This episode was for C1 to C2 learners. Keep listening, repeat useful phrases, pay attention to advanced vocabulary, and try to use these expressions in your own conversations. The more you listen, the more natural your English will become. See you in the next episode.